Hi, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome in today's program. Call me Alain Favour. Now, in the program of today, we shall be addressing Dr. Zakir Naik. Dr. Zakir Naik, in one of his videos, made mention of the fact that eating pork meat is prohibited by God, and he actually quoted a passage in the Bible that has to do with eating pork meat. But before we start commenting on what Dr. Zakir Naik said, please, I would like us to listen to what Dr. Zakir Naik said about eating pork or swine meat. So, Dr. Zakir Naik, can you tell us why we shouldn't eat pork or swine meat?
Bible says in the book of Leviticus, chapter number 11, verse number 7 and 8, that thou shalt not eat the flesh of swine, nor touch its carcass. It's unclean for you.
Wow. That's amazing. Dr. Zakir Naik actually said, thou shalt not eat the flesh of swine, nor touch his carcass, because it's unclean. That's amazing. Please, can we continue to listen to what Dr. Zakir Naik has to say? Because he actually mentioned a couple of things concerning eating swine or pork meat.
A similar message is given in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter number 14, verse number 8. Though the swine has cloven foot, and it chews not the cud, it is unclean for you. Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, said in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter number 5, verse number 7 to 20, that think not that I have come to destroy the law of the prophets. I have come not to destroy but to fulfill. For anyone who breaks one of the least commandments shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven.
Wow, that's amazing. I think we all heard what Dr. Zakir Naik said. Dr. Zakir Naik actually said that Jesus Christ didn't come to destroy the law of the prophets, but he came to fulfill them. So, Dr. Zakir Naik, please, can you tell us what does that mean?
That means if you break one law, one jot or tittle from the Old Testament, you shall not enter Jannah.
I think we all heard what Dr. Zakir Naik said. He said, if you break one of these laws in the Old Testament, you shall not enter Jannah. That means you shall not enter paradise. But in making such a statement, he forgets to know that he has officially buried his own prophet Muhammad. But then some of you might be asking, but who is actually Zakir Naik? Dr. Zakir Naik is one of the top Islamic apologists and actually a popular debater that has been defending Islam over the years, even after the demise of his teacher Ahmed Deedat a couple of years back. Well, let's address Dr. Zakir Naik in what he said. He quoted Leviticus 11 verses 7 and 8. But what if we start reading from verse 1? Here is what it says. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. There are some that only chews the cud or only have a divided hoof, but you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is unclean for you. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Wow, I think we all read what is written in that particular verse. Notice, you must not eat their meat nor touch their carcasses, because they are unclean for you. The camel, the rock badger, the rabbit, and the pig, they are all unclean. Dr. Zakir Naik actually quoted Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 8. But what if we start reading at verse 6? Here is what it says. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. However, if those that chew the cud or that have a divided hoof, you may not eat the camel, the rabbit, or the hyrax. Although they chew the cud, they do not have a divided hoof. They are ceremonially unclean for you. The pig is also unclean, although it has a divided hoof. It does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. So the same passage that Dr. Zakir Naik quoted from that says that you should not eat the pork meat or the swine meat, they also say you should not eat the camel meat and of course the rabbit meat as well. But why did Dr. Zakir Naik not tell the audience that eating camel meat as well is a sin. But he decided not to talk about the camel meat nor the rabbit meat, but he insisted to talk only about eating pork or swine. But the question is, why did Dr. Zakir Naik do that? Well, we are soon going to find that out. I guess he was hiding something from us. So the same passages that says don't eat pig meat, it is unclean, they also say don't eat camel meat because it's unclean, and don't eat rabbit meat. It's unclean as well. Now, according to what Dr. Zakir Naik said, quoting these passages, you see the passage that he quoted that prohibits Muslims from eating the pig also prohibits them from eating the rabbit, the camel meat. So what if we investigate Sahih Bukhari to hear what it has to say if Muhammad ever ate any of these animals? Sahih Bukhari 2572 narrated Anas, we provoked a rabbit at Marazahran till it started jumping, and the people ran after it but were exhausted. I overpowered and caught it and gave it to Abu Talha, who slaughtered it and sent it heap or 2 tithes to Allah's messenger. The narrator confirms that he sent 2 tithes. The prophet accepted that. The sub-narrator asked Anas, did the prophet eat from it? Anas replied, he ate from it. Wow, so you notice Muhammad ate that unclean rabbit and he liked it. I guess he licked his fingers after eating that unclean rabbit, and he also said Inshallah. But then let's continue the investigation. Sahih Bukhari 2485 narrated Rafi bin Kaji, we used to offer the Asr prayer with the prophet and slaughter a camel, the meat of which will be divided in 10 parts, and we will eat the cooked meat before sunset. Wow, so you notice in this hadith that Muhammad and his companions will eat the camel meat that is unclean. Now, that's not just all. The Quran itself allows Muslims to eat camel meat. Surah 22 verse 36. The sacrificial camel we have made for you as among the symbols from Allah. In them is much good for you. Then pronounce the name of Allah over them as they line up for sacrifice when they are down on their sides. After slaughter, eat ye thereof, and feed such as beg not, but live in contentment, and such as beg with due humility. Thus we have made animals subject to you, that ye may be grateful. That is Quran chapter 22 verse number 36. So you see that Allah specifically commands Muslims not to follow Jewish diet. Quran chapter 2 verse number 208. O you who believe, enter completely into Islam and do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Surely he is your open enemy. So we all know the history of this particular verse. We can read it in the Tafsir of Ibn Abbas, the Tafsir of Jalalain, Ibn Kathir, and many more. So the historical context of this verse is that a Jew named Abdul Salam converted into Islam, but he still kept the Jewish Sabbath and the Jewish diet restrictions. But specifically, he would not eat camel because it was forbidden in the Torah. So Surah 2 verse 208 came to Muhammad as a response to Abdul Salam to enter completely into Islam so that he wouldn't be part Jew and part Muslim. So Jewish converts into Islam were ordered to abandon Jewish rules about camel meat. So putting all this together, we have seen that the same passages quoted by Dr. Zakir Naik to show that pork is forbidden also says that rabbit meat and camel meat are forbidden. Do you think that Dr. Zakir Naik knew that? Of course he did. But he didn't just like telling his followers the truth. That's why he preferred to deceive them and lie to them. So we've also seen that Muhammad and his followers also ate rabbit meat and camel meat in clear violation of the Torah. Moreover, we see that Dr. Zakir Naik actually showed to us that Jesus Christ affirmed the Old Testament restriction of diet, and that according to Jesus Christ, anyone who violates any of these laws about the restrictions of diet in the Old Testament will not enter Jannah or will not enter paradise.
And Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, said in the Gospel of Matthew chapter number 5 verse number 720 that think not that I have come to destroy the law of the prophets. I have come not to destroy but to fulfill. For anyone who breaks one of the least commandments, that means if you break one law, one jot or tittle from the Old Testament, you shall not enter Jannah.
Wow, so this means that Dr. Zakir Naik did not only bury his prophet Muhammad, he also proved conclusively that Muhammad, his prophet, will never enter Jannah. So according to Dr. Zakir Naik, Muhammad stands condemned both before Jesus Christ and Moses because he ate camel meat and rabbit meat. So what are you Muslims going to respond today? Are you going to tell us that we shouldn't take those diets in the Old Testament serious? Are you going to tell me that Alain Favour, you see, the Mosaic rules about clean and unclean food can change from one prophet to the next? Wow, but I think that's too late because your top apologist Dr. Zakir Naik actually buried Muhammad and condemned him, sent him to hell because he ate rabbit meat and he ate camel meat, which is actually considered unclean in the Torah. Because your top apologists and scholars have spent years insisting that the dietary restrictions in Leviticus and Deuteronomy are permanent and binding. And by saying this, they have openly and permanently declared that Muhammad is permanently bound in hell. So if you ask me that where is Prophet Muhammad, I think it wouldn't be difficult to answer that question because Dr. Zakir Naik, who is actually your top apologist, told us exactly where he is. So once again, bravo Dr. Naik, bravo. If you are listening to me and you are a Muslim, let me know how you feel about what your top apologist said about rabbit meat, pork meat, and of course camel meat that your prophet eventually ate. Till I come your way again, I have been Alain Favour. God bless you. Bye bye.